Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Today we are talking about everything you need to know as an international family. The title of today's webinar is Supporting the International Students' Global Journey, and I'll introduce my panelists in just a bit. Right now, I do want to ask if you are able to chat to us where you're joining us from the globe, where we'd love to know where you are. And this is always a fun part of this webinar because we have people from all over the planet joining us. My name is Mikkel St. Germain. I am the Director of Parent and Family Engagement here at Brown University. Right now, we have about 30 people joining us, and we'll wait for more. Oh, I see Portugal's with us. Welcome. There are closed captions here available for you today. So if you just press the CC button on the bottom of your screen, you will see those captions. This session is being recorded and will be posted at a later time. It takes us about 24 to 48 hours to get it edited and posted. But if for any reason you've missed it or you want to share it with somebody in your family or your student, it'll be available on the same page where you registered. Many of you submitted questions in advance, and we've used that to build our presentation, and we'll try to get to as many questions as possible. But if you have any questions as we go along that if anything doesn't seem clear, please feel free to use the Q&A button to submit additional questions. Now, we have a great representation from all over the world. We've got China, Ukraine, London, Australia. This is fantastic. We recognize that navigating the global landscape at this moment in time can feel complex. And sorting through the university information that you're getting as an international family can be overwhelming. So while we won't be able to address every individual situation today, we will try and provide you with the information you need and the resources to reach out to us with questions, to find the information you need on our websites, and to get connected to the right people. So that's our goal, and we'll get started. We've got Hungary. Just excited to present to all of you today and to introduce you to my colleagues, two wonderful folks from the Global Brown Center that will be working with your international family. Hello, Japan. We've got Andrew Heald, who is the director of the Global Brown Center for International Students. And we also have Ruby Chang, who is the assistant director of the Global Brown Center for International Students. We'll start with Ruby, and so let's get going. Take it away, Ruby.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Mikkel. And hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. This is always my favorite time of the year, and to be able to welcome and say hello to our incoming international students. And again, my name is Ruby Chung, and I am the assistant director at the Global Brown Center. I'm also used to be an international student myself, and I completed my undergraduate through my doctoral degree here in the US. And my research interest is around student sense of belonging, specifically international student sense of belonging. And that's what I do here at the Global Brown Center as well, working with Andrew and my amazing colleague, Serena, who's not here yet, but your students will be able to see her once they're on campus. And so I will kickstart with the introduction about the International Mentoring Program, and then I will hand it over to my amazing Director Andrew to talk about the overview of our Global Brown Center. And Kay, if you could move to the next slide, and I will give it back to Andrew to have him to introduce himself.
Thank you so much, Ruby, for getting us started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Andrew Heald. I'm the director of the Global Brown Center for International Students, and our space, as you'll learn throughout the course of this morning, is dedicated to supporting your students in building a sense of belonging and really cultivating a home away from home while we're here at Brown. What brought me to Brown University is my own international experience. I did my undergraduate degree in linguistics, fell in love with culture and language and really wanted to broaden my understanding of the world. And I saw someone put in the chat that they're coming in from Japan. Hello. I had the wonderful opportunity to move to Japan for 3 years after my undergraduate degree to teach English. And it was the first time that I was really in a space where I had to learn so much about what it means to be in community across culture. And that is really what has brought me back to the US, back to this work, and ultimately here to Brown. And so I'm really excited to get to know you all and to share a little bit about what your student is going to be experiencing at Brown. And as Ruby noted, that we do have one more staff member, Serena, who your students will meet. She's our program coordinator here in the Global Brown Center, supporting our cultural and community programs. So to kick it back off, Ruby, I'll turn it over to you to talk about orientation and the IMP program.
Sounds great. Next slide, please. And next, please. So I will start with the IMP program. Okay, if we could move to, yes, perfect. And the International Mentoring Program is my favorite program on campus. And we are also one of the many pre-orientations that's happening at the Brown campus. But I would say that we are one of the best pre-orientations that students can participate in. International Mentoring Program actually has a really, really long history, and is a students drive very dedicated team of international students working for cultivating a home away from home for international students. And when we talk about international students, we mean that students who identify with a different culture. There definitely we have international students who are on student visas, but also domestic students who have lived in a different country or identify with different multiple countries growing up, and we welcome all the students. And the IMP program itself, as you can see, it's a mentoring program. It's a peer mentorship, and the power of peer mentorship is really amazing, where your students can really connect early on, even before they arrive on campus. They will be able to chat with their mentors and to talk about what to prepare. And I'm sure that all your students have already received their summer contact bill, which I will share a little bit more later on from our mentors for welcoming first emails and what to expect. And then I will welcome everybody during the international orientation. And then IMP is actually a year-long program. So after that, students will be able to participate in a lot of events, workshops, community building, and one-on-one coffee chats with our amazing mentors. Next, please. And here I'm gonna share a little bit pictures of what we have throughout the year. If we can go to the next slide. Perfect. As you can see on those pictures, students have potluck, and they can bring their favorite food and to share with other students. We have if we can go back a little bit. And we also have International Student Festival, where students can celebrate their culture and to experience different culture on our campus at Brown as well. And we take students to off-campus trips as well. They can go explore amazing, lovely Providence and nearby places in New England. And also we have pumpkin carving, a lot of really cool annual events where we also celebrate the U.S. culture and help the students to have a great sense of belonging on campus, which is really, really cool and at the core of our international mentoring program. Next, please. And as one of the pillars of the IMP program, we organize pre-departure orientation events. On the screen for the next slide, you will be able to see the pre-departure events. And our next upcoming pre-departure webinar will be on this Sunday, June 27th. If we can go back for one more slide. Thank you. And so if the Sunday, June 27th from 8 to 9 Eastern Time, AM will be our pre-departure orientation with our IMP mentors. And also new students will have this opportunity to really engage with incoming students from their region or globally and build a community right away before they even arrive on our campus. And they will be able to also ask questions questions that they may have about, what to prepare for the international orientation or for their study here at Brown. So they will get their questions answered directly during the webinar. And then we also have your students will also have an opportunity to chat with us, me and Andrew, again, directly on Monday, June 29th, and from 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And we will be able to share a little bit more information about international orientation and then have their question answered directly as well. So the goal for the pre-departure orientation is really prepare your students to be ready and ease some of their concerns, or maybe they're very excited as well. So help them to connect with other excited students and then to get their planning for arrival going. And that's our pre-departure orientation. If we can go to the next slide, please. You will be able to see the framework of our international, all of our international student work at the Global Brown Center. And we really, really want to embrace, the assets our international students are bringing to our Brown campus. And we want to celebrate international students of who they are. And we want to have the opportunity to celebrate all the rich cultures they can bring to our campus. But also, we recognize their linguistic assets, their social background assets, and also their cultural assets. And that's something we really, really value as a entire campus. And our work is really, really centered around the sense of belonging for international students and preparing for the transition work, building community for the students, and also making sure that students are paying attention to their well-being. And we have a lot of events to help your students to navigate the system and ease their concerns throughout the year. So IMP is a year-long program. Always remind your students, just don't be, disappear after the international orientation, or don't be worried, like we'll be disappearing after the orientation. We'll always be here, so supporting your students. Next, please. And for the international orientation and the international mentoring program, we do a lot of assessment around it and trying to really, really understand each cohort of international students and their needs and how we're doing. And so we can adapt some changes for catering to the, different type of our international students and maybe some of the challenges or maybe different things that are experiencing each year. And as you can see that every year, our first year experience for international students ratings are really high. If you go to the next slide, please, some of the details I want to share is that 99% of our students that report during the international orientation, they will meet at least one mentors that they feel like they can learn some of the Brown resources from, which is really, really great. And 99% of the students share that they joined the one-year program for the IMP after the international orientation because they already feel a sense of community and sense of belonging among other, students and from their mentor cohorts, which is really great. And 100% of our international orientation participants reported that they'd recommend IMP international orientation for the future international students. So that's really, really, exciting news for everyone who is involved in this important work to see that, international mentoring program is really something that uplifts the experience of our international students and support a sense of belonging here for our new students. And I mentioned a little bit about the summer contact earlier. If we can go to the next slide, I will share a little bit about the summer contact information. And so for our summer contact, your students should have already received at least one email. And I checked in with our mentors last week, and I heard that students have a lot of questions, and they will be, some of them already hop on like a Zoom meeting already with their summer contact mentors, who are our current amazing international students and student leaders on campus, sharing, their experiences, and they will be emailing your your students throughout the summertime to remind them with some important deadlines and to help them understand what to prepare for the arrival. They may have questions about, if they will be picked up during the airport when they arrive in the Providence airport. So we'll share all those arrival informations dedicated to your students. And how the summer contact works is that we'll try our best to assign a mentor that is in your region, in your student's region, and so that they can work within relatively similar time zone and also share some similar, experience based on their shared lived experience. So that if your students, you can check in with your students, haven't heard about from our summer contacts just yet, please email us imp@brown.edu, and we will make sure that your students will be receiving information from our international mentoring students. And another really cool fun facts of our summer contacts is that a lot of students find friends within their smaller groups, because we have typically around 15 to 16 students per group. So it's not like a huge group where students often get lost, but in the summertime, they get into the smaller group within the same region. They get to know each other and they spend time building community with each other, which is really, really cool. And summer contact is also rated one of the highest services that we offer during international orientation. So highly encourage your students, if they have questions, reach out to their mentors during the summertime and get their answers, get their question answered. All right. So next, I'm gonna hand the floor back to Andrew to talk a little bit more about what we do overall at the Global Brown Center for our students.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ruby, for that fabulous introduction to international orientation, to the international mentoring program, and to all of the supports that we have specifically for our incoming first-year international student community. If we go to the next slide, I'm going to share a little bit more about where IMP is situated on campus. So IMP is a program that exists under the Global Brown Center for International Students. But it's important to note, as Ruby shared earlier, that IMP is actually older than the Global Brown Center. IMP has been around for, I think, 26, 27 years now. And the Global Brown Center has only been around for about 8 years. So we are, our center is entering into a long, rich tradition of students supporting students. And we hold that charge very, very deeply in the work that we do. So a little bit about the history of the Global Brown Center. Excuse me. We began in 2017 here at Brown University as a result of student activism. Students on campus said, hey, we are international students. We have support for our immigration. We have support for our academics. But the campus doesn't really feel like home just yet. We need some additional support, some community building support. And so as a result of that activism, the Global Brown Center for International Students was born because we take very seriously the feedback from students here at Brown. And ever since then, we have been dedicated to that central charge, creating a home away from home and a sense of belonging for the entire international student community here at Brown. And so as Ruby said, our understanding of international is broad. We operate on the framework of international identity. And so we have so many different students from so many different walks of life that call the center home, and through our programs really help co-create what home means here at Brown for our global community. So it's a little bit about our history, a little bit about our mission, our programs. So as we've been talking about, International Mentoring Program is our biggest flagship program here in the GBC. It is the program where we center all of the support for our incoming first-year students. But additionally, beyond that first year engagement, we have cultural programs that are aimed to uplift and celebrate the cultural assets that your students are bringing into the space. That looks like International Festival. It looks like supporting student organizations on campus, hosting culturally specific events and programs. Examples include Diwali celebrations, Lunar New Year celebrations, Dia de los Muertos celebrations, all of these very important important communal holidays and spaces that students want to create for themselves here at Brown. In addition to cultural programs, we host our community building programs, and that includes off-campus trips. It includes gatherings in our center space. We've done painting nights, we've done movie nights, but we've also, through our community building program and initiative, we have also centered the needs of our students when they really need to gather in community. For example, if there is something happening in the world, or if there is something that students really need to have support in response to, we will build a space for those students to gather and be in community. Additionally, not as relevant, but important to name, we do also support our graduate international students through a really robust series of programs. And so what I'm hoping you get from that is knowing, yes, we're going to support your students when they arrive for orientation and their first year, but we have a whole host of programs that support the belonging and community building efforts of our international students beyond that first year, all the way into graduate school. Some of our students have completed fifth-year master's degrees here at Brown and continue to be engaged with us as they enter that new phase of their academic journey. The next thing I would love to talk about, and I believe Mikhail just put it in the chat actually, is our center space. We have a wonderful lounge on campus here in the Globe. It's called the Globe. My office is right next to it. And this space is dedicated for our international student community. All are welcome to join us, and that's true of all of our programs. But the center space is really dedicated to creating a physical representation of what it means to be in a home away from home. And as a result, it's open 24/7. Our students can access the space at any time, which often means that students will be studying in here until 2 a.m. and then maybe falling asleep on what we call the nap couch. It's this very comfy couch in the Globe, even though we strongly discourage that because well-being is important. But the key takeaway here is that the center space is a physical space for students to retreat to be in community, and to have a place that feels like their own. And lastly, the Global Brown Center staff are always here to support our students in whatever needs that they have. We may not be the experts in all things immigration or all things academic, but what we are is a fantastic support for navigating the university. If someone has a question, if someone doesn't know where to go to, they can come to us and we will help direct them. And oftentimes we'll walk them over to our colleagues. We will email our colleagues on behalf of our students to help them get connected to the resources that they need. And so that is how, through our mission, through our programs and our center space, and through the ways that we advocate and support our students, all of that is how we cultivate a home away from home for our global students here at Brown University. And we can go to the next slide. And a little bit about our students, about your students, about this wonderful community that we have here at Brown. Every year we have new students coming from 80 plus countries. I think the total number of countries is somewhere in the 90 to 110 range. And we have anywhere from 12 to 14% of our undergraduate student community identifies as international. And as we've noted, that title of international, that identity of international is a very inclusive identity that we hold very close in the center. And students come to us from, obviously from different lived experiences in different countries, but we also have students who are part of military families that have never lived in the US but identify as American. We have students who are by country in their experience. They live in multiple countries throughout multiple phases of their life. And all of that is to say that we hold all of those experiences very close and important in the work that we do. And we can go to the next slide. And kind of closing out, now that you know a little bit more about international orientation, now that you know a little bit more about where IMP is situated in the Global Brown Center and how we support your international students' journey here at Brown, just some additional logistics. If your student is interested in facilitating ride sharing and or travel to campus, we do have some information here, but don't worry, we will be sharing this information directly with your student as we continue our summer contact process. So just so you know, we will have additional supports for your student in their arrival process. And we can go to the next slide. And final logistics, I think final slide, if I'm not mistaken. Ruby, you can correct me. Final slide, perfect. Oh, one more. Okay. So our final piece of logistics information is that our international orientation, which is really, I think, the heart of why so many of you are joining us here today, will take place from Saturday, October 29th to Tuesday, September 1st. Move-in for international orientation does start on that Saturday, on the 29th. We will have a welcome desk available for all of our students from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on that day. That being said, if any student has to arrive outside of that time frame, we will have supports for getting them connected to all of the resources that they need and to be able to smoothly start their journey here at Brown. Registration is open. We have a lot of our students have already registered. I think we're somewhere around 200 students that have already registered. But if your student has not registered, we highly encourage you to encourage them to do so. And lastly, we have a very robust series of engagement programs for our parents and families that will be joining us for international orientation. This includes access to certain events in conjunction with your students. There'll be some events that you can attend with your student, and then there will be some events that you can attend on your own that are very specifically tailored to helping you get your questions answered further as parents and families of international students. And we'll close Monday, August 31st. We will close that day with a parent and family reception to celebrate you, to celebrate all of the wonderful contributions that you have given to your children and your students, and all of the wonderful things that they are bringing with them from their experience with you all. And I think I'm going to turn it back over to Ruby.
Sounds great. And okay, if we can go to the next slide, I also typed in our chat box about our LinkedIn, how to follow us on our not LinkedIn. We also have a LinkedIn if you have your students reach out and then follow us on Global Brown Center on LinkedIn as well. But our Instagram, that's where we post all those announcements for our amazing events, fun activities. So definitely make sure to have your students to follow us over there. And now we will transition to Q&A, and I guess I will turn it back to our amazing Mikhail.
Thanks, Ruby. Thanks, Andrew. I'm going to let you take a breath just for a second and answer a question we get a lot about international parent and family orientation, and then also the parent and family welcome that happens when regular orientation happens. And a lot of international families will say, do we have to attend both? Should we attend both? What if we can't attend both? And honestly, there is no way that you need to do this. We call it a parent and family welcome later in, actually this year it starts on September 2nd when the other students all move in. And if you are still around in Rhode Island, you're welcome to attend, but don't feel like you need to because a lot of the events will be live streamed. And also a lot of the information that the folks will receive on those days are things that you're going to hear already from Andrew and Ruby in the international parent orientation. So that's a little bit about that. If you have more questions, you can reach me at family@brown.edu and I can go through the options with you. Now let's get into the questions. I'm going to start with what I think is an easy one for you guys. So families are at home trying to figure out what to pack. What are the essentials that you recommend that students bring with them? And maybe what are some of the things that they should leave behind? I don't know who wants to take that first. Ruby.
Sounds good. That's such a great question. I think that really depends on, because myself, I'm a really light packer. My husband, he always packs tons of stuff. And for me, I just really travel light. But I think the most important things to bring is to bring, the one thing I would say is to bring appropriate clothing. And sometimes we always tell students, oh, you can buy the clothes once you arrive here. But in August, summer is ending, but it's also still beautiful. But sometimes during the nighttime, it can be, a little bit chill, and maybe bring a little bit long sleeve. And we also will take students to shopping, so students actually can buy a lot of things while they're here. I would say I also encourage students to bring something that they really miss from home. Maybe they have something they always take and that's represent their culture or represent their identity. And myself, I bring a clothes that represent, I'm from Inner Mongolia, part of China. And I feel like every time I feel homesick, I will bring out my clothing and just to, connect with myself. And I think that's also very important. But a lot of things students can actually really buy from here in the US. But I don't know if Andrew, you have some additional things that you want to share.
No, absolutely. I think really thinking about the essentials, things like clothing that you need, weather appropriate clothing. I definitely second the bring something special from home that feels like it can connect you back home when you're feeling homesick. That's oftentimes something people forget. And I would also definitely encourage any sort of medicine that your students need, and a couple of days worth of toiletries of kind of the essentials that someone might need to get through a couple of days, because they will have access to multiple different resources when they arrive. I think oftentimes students feel like they need to overpack, and really it's just about what you need to get settled in the first couple of months, because you're going to be building a life here at Brown. And so you're going to naturally be able to access all of the things that you need when you're here. Additionally, any sort of technology that folks need, things like that, I think are also useful to keep in mind.
All right. So similar to that, how do students manage their money? And do they typically use cash, debit cards, or credit cards? And what are some of the things that international families need to know about applying for those things?
That's a great question. I will kickstart that by saying that on day one of orientation, we have something called the Banking and Cell Phone Fair. This is a resource that we provide for students so they can talk to local banks and essentially ask all of those questions directly to professionals who can help them navigate their own decision making. As far as what they should do or what they shouldn't do, one of the things that we hold very, very closely in the way that we do our work is building agency in our students. And so it's not our place to tell them exactly what to do in terms of their own financial situation. That being said, I will say that US culture is less cash oriented. And so most of the time, it is extremely beneficial for a student to open a checking account at the very least, in order to facilitate all of their financial transactions, including those with the university. If for whatever reason there are refunds in their tuition or any sort of aid or support that they get, they will likely need to have a local US bank account in order to access those. But while that may sound scary and daunting to kind of figure out by yourself, we will have not only the banking and cell phone fair, but if students miss that fair, we will also have our mentors who can help guide them to those local resources in order to facilitate all the essential documentation that they might need.
All right, thank you. And I'll add a plug for our webinar tomorrow. We have another webinar. We will have the folks from the Student Financial Services team there. So if you do have questions about making payments and things like that, we will have that available tomorrow at noon Eastern time. But again, that will be recorded as well. We had a question come in, and I think, Andrew, I'll start with you on this one about international student orientation and a student who is trying to decide between attending that or attending the Third World Transition Program that's run by the Brown Center for Students of Color, which is another great pre-orientation program. How do you decide? Do you have some tips for that?
That is such a good question, and honestly, one of my favorite questions, because it does give us a chance to not only talk about this particular debate, this particular dilemma that you're going through, but it also gives us the opportunity to really talk about the other centers and resources that we have in campus life. So for those of you who may not know what the program is in question, there's another center that supports students in a similar capacity called the Brown Center for Students of Color. And it is part of a group of centers that we are a part of that really support students in their lived identities on campus. They have a pre-orientation program as well that runs alongside the Global Brown Center's international orientation. And it's also a fantastic program that really supports students in building community, in answering really critical questions about identity, here in the United States. And so I would say we unfortunately don't allow students to do both programs simply because they run at the same time and they're very time demanding, right? There's programs throughout the day, and there are social connections with the mentors and with staff that we feel really important to center and cultivate. That being said, your student can choose between the two programs if they feel that one is better suited for them. We are happy to allow them to do TWTP. If they are on a visa, they will be required to attend a couple of things in international orientation. The last point that I'll make is while they are separate programs and they're run by separate offices, our fabulous teams over in the BCSC and Ruby, who is our amazing lead of IMP, are really intentional about building opportunities for collaboration and building opportunities for students from both programs to get together, meet each other, and engage in further community building. So I hope that answers the question, but I would also love to open it up to Ruby if you feel like I've missed anything in relationship to the question of IMP or TWTP.
I think you answered it beautifully. And obviously, as I'm a little bit biased because, I'm part of the IMP. And I do want to add is that, yes, we have a tons of collaboration between IMP and TWTP. From what I've seen in the past few years, I do think international students, if you gravitate more with your international identity, the IMP program actually serves a little bit more catered for international students because our group of community are all having shared identities, shared different challenges for cultural and international transitions to the US. But if you feel like it's very important to learn about, the race and discussions around identity from a different perspective, I think TWTP is also a great program. And TWTP doesn't end after their orientation either. It's also a year-long program, and we do a lot of collaboration. I think that no matter what your students choose, they will always be able to attend different events. And there's plenty of events. I would say overwhelmingly a lot of events that's happening right after the orientation, and your students will be able to, find their community and connect with different groups among all the identity centers we have on campus.
Beautifully said, Ruby.
All right. So yes, thank you both. This I think is a good segue into students who might experience homesickness. Once the newness of campus wears off and they've been through orientation and they're missing home, can you talk about how the Global Brown Center helps support students who are feeling that way? Ruby, let's
I
start
guess
with you.
I will. Yes, I guess I will start. I know that, I have those experience up until today. I've been in the US for over 15 years. I still miss home a lot of the times. I think that knowing a place where you can find home cuisine is very important. And I know our amazing IMP mentors right now are preparing a handbook for our new students and to identify different type of cultural cuisines around Brown campus. And hopefully that we will be able to share with you all very soon so your students can identify some of their favorite restaurant that they can go to when they feel homesick. I think that food is always very important to connect you back to your culture. I think that's my first take. And then also linking to the community is also very important. I think homesickness is inevitable. It's not like a community here in the US, but also community back home. I think parents, families are a very important resource of support, even though they are far, far away from home, but checking in with the students and then having conversations. Don't pressure them to do too much internship and finding jobs just yet, but checking with them and see how they're navigating everything on campus is also, I think, help release some of the, homesickness throughout especially the first year. And I think that's also something it's important. Back at you, Andrew.
Absolutely. And in addition to what Ruby has shared, excuse me, I'll just share two additional things. One is we recognize that there's a time period where homesickness most often sets in. It's not true for everyone, and everyone's going to have their own unique experience. But somewhere around the end of October, early November, once they've had their first round of midterms, once it's a couple of months in, and Mikhail, you put it so beautifully, once after all the newness has kind of worn off, that's the period where we see students experiencing a little bit more homesickness. And so we intentionally create programs through IMP to have workshops around that time to help respond to that need that we know exists, especially around that time. And then to Ruby's point, it also exists beyond those moments and can exist for a long time. The last thing that I'll note is we are very intentional about our break programming. We know that breaks can be a time when potentially homesickness sets in particular for students who, for many reasons, aren't able to travel home during breaks. And so during Parent and Family Weekend, during our Thanksgiving break, and our winter break, and our spring break, we, as the center, have dedicated programs to support students who are remaining on campus during those times and who may not have access to family members during that time. And so that's another way that we really try to intentionally address the concerns of homesickness at those time periods when we know that those feelings may be more present.
Yeah, you guys do a great job with that. I've witnessed that firsthand. And for those thinking about Family Weekend, again, you're invited to attend Family Weekend every year that your student is here. So if you can't make it this year, maybe next year or maybe the year after that. It's always in October. The date changes a little bit each year, but we put the future dates on the Family Weekend website. But again, if you can't make it, Andrew and Ruby and the IMP mentors will make sure your student has a great time regardless. So we're talking about community a little bit, and outside of Global Brown and the places you've already mentioned, where are other places that international students find community on campus? Andrew, why don't we start with you on this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with I named one center that we have in our group on campus. We are the Global Brown Center. We have the Brown Center for Students of Color. There are other centers on campus, as Ruby alluded to, that host similar programming but with different frameworks. For example, the Sarah Doyle Center for Women and Gender, the LGBTQ plus Center, the Undocumented Low Income and First Generation Student Center, and our Office of Military Affiliated Students. All of these centers operate in a very similar kind of programmatic structure as the GBC in supporting our students, supporting peer mentorship, and supporting programs that uplift belonging and a sense of community here at Brown. So that's my first layer of community support. Second layer of community support is really thinking about peer-to-peer spaces like student organizations on campus. Brown, I think, has over 500 student organizations that range from a cappella groups to outing clubs where students go hiking, to chess clubs where students get together and play games, to cooking clubs where students go to different kitchens on campus and learn how to cook fabulous things in ways that are way, way better than I could ever do. So there's a host of student organizations that really dedicate to or are dedicated to a multitude of experiences and interests. So that's really the second layer that I would consider in terms of community support. And the final layer that I would think about is, and it's oftentimes not something that people immediately think of when they think of building community, but classrooms. So many of our spaces, so many of our academic spaces are really engaging, and professors are fantastic at incorporating discussion, dialogue, and those are also spaces of community building. So your students may find their people in IMP, they may find their people in a student organization, they might find their folks within a class that they really enjoyed and that was really rich and fulfilling for them mentally. And they may find folks within all of those spaces and have this really wonderful network of support. Ruby, I don't know if I missed any key.
I think that's perfect. And while you were talking, I added those links for student organizations and student clubs. Students can participate. And if I could add one more thing, is just those other like academic department or spaces that is outside of the classroom too. For example, the Center for Career Exploration or they have a lot of really cool stuff if your students are very interested in startup companies or like all those business and related activities. Finding community in interest-based groups or department can be also very important. And there's also sports-based community as well. If your students are interested in playing any type of sports, performance, cultural groups, there's always community over there. And yeah, it's a lot of resources for your students on campus.
Yeah, I'll add one more to the list that people don't think about a lot in it's campus employment. So if your student, even if your student doesn't really need a job, sometimes it's a great place for people to find their people there or find a low stakes way to engage with other people. All right, so next question we had was about driver's licenses. Is it possible for overseas students to get a Rhode Island driver's license?
Yes, it's definitely possible. And all of those resources are available in a sister office to ours that Ruby, thank you so much, has already put in the chat one step ahead. That the International Students and Scholars Services Office, they are the main point of contact for anything related to immigration, to visa status, and to any sort of documentation at the state or federal level. And so they have a lot of resources available on their website in order to facilitate getting either a state ID or a driver's license for international students.
All right, thank you. We're getting close to the end, so I'm going to ask a question that's a little bit wide-ranging. And I'll start with Ruby. When you talk to students who've been through the program, what's one thing that they say they wish they had done before they arrived on campus? Ruby, let's start with you. Oh,
It looks like
Ruby
Ruby
might be
may
lagging.
be,
So,
yeah.
Andrew, we'll start with you.
I can get started. Yeah. I think one of the things, and this is a really important feature of our program that we talked about earlier in our session today. I think one of the main things that students will tell us is that they wish they engaged with their summer contact earlier, and they wish they engaged with them more holistically over the summer. Oftentimes, students who don't engage with their summer contacts come to campus, and they will obviously receive a lot of support upon arrival. But the process of the summer contacts really helps students feel more equipped before they arrive. And it gives them a point of contact before they arrive in order to alleviate any of the anxiety that they may be feeling. So in our experience, students who are more engaged over the summer with their summer contact have less anxiety when they arrive, and they feel a little bit more equipped to really jump right in and start exploring campus. So that's the first thing. No worries, Ruby. So that's the first thing that I would say. And the second is really just reading all of your emails. I know there's so many things that come through before we start your journey here at Brown, not only from us, but I know your students are receiving things from Residential Life, from admissions, from our Office of International Students and Scholar Services. But one of the things that students reflect on after they arrive is how much they know versus how much they don't, because maybe they weren't able to check all of their emails. So we just highly encourage that students pay really close attention to all the information and relational support that they receive prior to arrival. Ruby, we were just talking about anything that our students reflect on that they may have wished they did differently over the summer before arrival. And I shared maintaining relationships with summer contacts and making sure that they check their emails. Any additional?
Yeah, those are super important aspects. And in addition, I would say just make sure to rest, recharge, and relax. Enjoy the summer before they become a college student. And I think that's very important. And spending time with families and then, say goodbye and not in a sad way, but in like say hello to a new adventure, but say goodbye to their high school life with their high school friends and all that. It's also very important. I think this is such a amazing time where, before they get all busy and then finding their new journey, new community, take some time to recharge and rest this summer is also very important. But definitely get connected with the summer contact for IMP. Number one, most important thing.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to put a link in the chat for our guests to fill out a survey to tell us how we can improve our webinars, and if they have any other additional questions or thoughts. We do look at those surveys and use them to help us continue to bring you good programming. While I do that, why don't we close out with Andrew and Ruby, if you want to just give us some closing words and words of advice. Ruby, I'm going to start with you while we still have you. So what is your advice to our families?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be amazing adventure. I've been at Brown for almost 4 years, and I've seen our international students thrive on campus. And sometimes they arrive on campus with mixed feelings, saying goodbye to their parents. I think I see some parents are very excited to say goodbye to their kids and finally out of the house, but a lot of parents are still feeling like, oh, my little kids is going away to college. But I think this is such a beautiful moment, and just encourage your students to step out from their comfort zone and enjoy the new adventure, connecting with all making new friends, connecting with all students, staff member on campus, as well as the faculty member they will be interacting, and open to different type of opportunities. Stay curious, and because Brown is such a collaborative campus, and there's a lot of things that your students can do on campus, whether it's doing academic research, finding their interest, and deepen their academic exploration. But just like stay open and encourage them to really take time, because we, like I try to say, I'm always very impressed by Brown resources, and I encourage them to take time and pace themselves and to enjoy all the things along the way of their college journey.
Thank you, Ruby. Andrew?
Yeah, I could not have said it better myself. Ruby, that was a wonderful, wonderful way to close. And I think I will uplift one point that you shared and just really, really drive it home. I think one of the things that we often talk about during moments like this is the transition for your students. We are very, very intentional about the ways that we support your students as they enter our community, both before they arrive, as they're arriving, and as you have seen beyond that. But it's important to remember that this is a transition for you as well. This may be your first young family member to go off to college. You may have done this many times before, but either way, this is also a transition for you. It's a transition in the relationship that you'll have with your students. And so just keep that in mind as well, and hold grace for yourselves, and know that we are a part of your students' journey, and that we want to honor all of the things that you have given your students before they've arrived, and that you will continue to foster in your students. So we see ourselves as facilitators, as partners in your students' journey, and we're just really excited to welcome not only your students, but also you to this new Brown family.
Beautifully said, Andrew and Ruby. Thank you. And see everyone joining us. Your students are in wonderful hands with the Global Brown Center. I sincerely want to thank Andrew and Ruby for joining us today. I want to thank our Media Services Tech, Kay, and our captioner. And to all of you who stayed up late or got up early to be with us, if you have any questions after this webinar, please direct them to family@brown.edu, and we will get you the information you need. And now, please, wherever you are in the world, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.